Right, we've got Q Johnson on, and I was intrigued with this. An old friend of mine, Kathy Blitzky, sent me this, the PR release, that is. And so he's developed something called the Plug Zen. And instead of me reading all this stuff, it'd sound better if you just sort of tell us a little bit about what Plug Zen is, Q. Tell us all about that.
Well, Plug Zen is a Black-owned EV charging company that's based in Detroit. And what we've developed is what we call our EV All platform. It is a hybrid platform that charges wired and wireless vehicles. And when it's fully installed, you can charge up to 10 vehicles simultaneously. So this is ideal for multifamily housing, workplace charging, and fleet operations, which includes municipalities and small businesses. In fact, we're pursuing a bid with the GSA to outfit government buildings with our EVR platform.
Okay, man.
So what do you see as your competitive advantage here?
Our competitive advantage is a patent pending EV charging system. Our patent pending system is modular, scalable, and it's hybrid. It's wired and wireless, so we can meet all of our customers' demands. We have basically two systems. We have a port system, which is for sale, and we have a node system with a lot more advanced features, which we lease.
And according to your poop sheet here that Kathy sent me, you can do up to 10 vehicles at a time. Is that right?
Yes, we can.
And you can do them either wireless or not, right? So, I mean, it's pretty multifaceted.
Yeah, it creates a new exciting business model for property owners because property owners that have tenants that do not want to own cars, they can actually set up autonomous vehicles to service their buildings, whereas the tenants would lease the cars and rent the cars as they need them, and they would charge wirelessly right there on the property. So there are a lot of different assets or avenues that this EVR system gives property owners.
So you say you're manufacturing these charging stations in Detroit. Where is that happening, and are you hiring at this point, or what's the status of that at this moment?
Well, we will be manufacturing in Detroit. We actually got kind of stalled with the the chip shortage. It's a funny story there, but we're going to be manufacturing in June, and yes, we will be hiring.
Oh, that's great.
And so where are you going to build them in Detroit? Do you have a facility already set up or not?
Well, we're setting the facility up now, and right now we're kind of working through the logistics of two different locations, and hopefully by the end of this month, and I mean April, we decide on which one we're going to go with.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about your background and how you happened to get into this business.
Well, I've spent over 20 years in the automotive industry. I started out at Ford working with prototype vehicles, and I left Ford in 2006 to work with EV startups. So I've been working with EV startups since 2006. And the biggest problem that I've seen was the range anxiety and the lack of infrastructure. So I developed Plug Zen to address that lack of infrastructure.
And so again, I'm looking at your sheet here. One of the things you're trying to do is eliminate the so-called driver range anxiety. Why don't you explain that?
Well, range anxiety is the thought of you're going to run out of juice somewhere and be stranded. So you get anxious. The Department of Transportation estimated that most folks drive 40 miles a day. And with driving habits being the way they are now, most people, they'll drive until the day gets half empty, and some will even push it to eat. And the thought of doing that in an electric car is scary, especially when there's no place to charge. So what we do is set up opportunities for folks to charge while they live, work, and play, at work, at home, and there'll be in certain venues like ball games and theaters. So you can charge your car. Anywhere your car is going to sit for 2 hours or more is an ideal place for you to charge on our chargers. If most people drive 40 miles a day with our level 2 charger, that's about three hours of charge. So anywhere where it's going to sit 2 hours or more, you're just topping your battery off. Now, the unique part about level 2 charging is if you charge on level 2 at home or at work, your fueling costs are only going to be around $600. Whereas right now, gasoline vehicles, the fueling cost is somewhere around $3,000 and sometimes up to $5,000 depending on the vehicle. So that's a huge savings when you're driving electric vehicles over driving a gasoline vehicle. And especially if you're doing level 2, top it off at home. DC fast charging, which we won't be doing, is going to be a little more cost prohibitive. It's going to cost more because those systems cost a lot more. You're going to see those along the highways and corridors primarily. There are going to be some places in the city where you see DC fast charging, but that's not the most ideal for the charge because it's going to take you about half an hour, 15 minutes to half an hour to recharge your vehicle. So if you park and get out and go about whatever you're doing, you have to come back 15 minutes to half an hour later and move your vehicle, or you got to sit there for 15 minutes to half an hour. With our level 2 charging, you park your car and you go enjoy your day, or you go enjoy your job, your work, whatever you're going to do. You charge while you live, work, and play. That's where our name comes from, plugs in. You get zen when you plug your vehicle in. You just relax, it's taken care of.
Okay, so I would also think maybe retailers, shopping centers, that kind of thing would be another market for these?
Mixed use, especially as electric vehicles become more widely adopted, employees are going to need to recharge their vehicles. So when you say charging while you work, that'll be the employees in that location. And then people who are going there to shop for a long period of time, half an hour to an hour. Now, keep in mind that if they're topped off at home and they're topped off at work, when they drive to the retail location, they're not going to need more than an hour of charge. So it'll just top their vehicle off. Wherever they go, they're just topping their vehicle off, and they never have to worry about running out of charge. No more range anxiety.
Some of the newer EVs have ranges as up to 250 miles. I think that one of the big hesitancies right now is not so much the commuter stuff, 40, 50 miles a day. It's if you want to drive to Grand Rapids. And, what happens if you get to Portland and you're out of juice? I'm not saying that's a problem that you can solve, but I think that's one of the hesitancies right now about folks really jumping on EVs. Is there any way to solve that problem?
Well, that's what the government is tackling right now with the DC fast chargers. They're putting them along the corridor. As a matter of fact, part of this administration's plan is to put them every 50 miles. And so they're planning that out now and work with the state of Michigan to put them along the corridor. And that's where they're very ideal.
Okay, we lost Matt for a second. He's coming back in, I hope. But let me, what are you're saying the chip shortage? Well, everybody's having a chip shortage. Just look what's going on in the auto industry, right?
Yeah.
How long do you have another sources or multiple sources?
Yeah, we're working on some sources now. We had an order in November and it got bought from under us. As a matter of fact, the guy wouldn't even return my calls, and then he had to be on the phone with someone else because he accidentally took my call. And I asked him about the chips that I was supposed to get in February, and he said, "Sorry, Q, I sold them." I was like, "What?" But he sold them for like more than 10 times what I was paying for. So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy right now. All that stuff coming out of Asia, and it's only going to get worse now that China is shutting down again for the pandemic.
Yeah.
So, I started my career in Silicon Valley in the 1980s, and everybody was a chip maker out there. And unfortunately, we decided to go offshore with that stuff. And now we're reaping the whirlwind on that, as it were. So.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't associate that with Silicon Valley. That's what Silicon Valley was. We do have a supplier. We've addressed it, our short-term needs and our long-term needs. We do have a supplier out of Spain that can actually manufacture the chip, but that's got to go through months and months of UL certification. It won't be as ready as the chips that we're we were originally sourcing and the ones that we get emergency supply of. But our emergency supply should get us up and running. But we have to do something different. The business model has changed. We have to buy all of those upfront and warehouse. And we still can't get them for 8 weeks.
Yeah, big money, right, Matt?
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a glitch with my connectivity there, but I'm back on. So I don't know what questions you might have already asked, Mike. So go ahead.
Well, we're just talking about EV ranges and what you're going to do when you're highway driving. And, because some of these EVs now get 250 miles worth of range, which is okay most of the time. But if you're taking that family vacation somewhere, then what? So he was talking about that, and he was talking about the chip shortages. He's got other sources for his chips, as we all know. Look at how many. You're in Dearborn, Matt. I mean, how many vehicles does Ford have sitting on lots where they can't get chips for them, right?
Yeah, the dealership I go to, Village Ford on the west side of Dearborn, it's weird to see right now, the lot being that empty. It's just because every car they get is pretty much sold as it gets there. There's nothing sitting on the lot anymore. When it comes to range, Mike, I noticed when I was watching a golf tournament a couple of weeks ago, there's a Mercedes that you can get with over 500 miles of range, but that one's $101,000. So,
well, you're getting ready to retire. You could handle that, right?
But I have a feeling it's like everything else. That kind of range will gradually work its way down to a more reasonable price point, hopefully, as battery technology gets better. Level 2 charging, though, what you're talking about, that's the 220 volt, right?
No, 240 volts. Well, some can be 220, but traditionally it's 240 volts.
Okay, so that's reasonably fast, but not as fast as the 400 plus volt stuff they're talking about now.
Exactly. And our EVR platform is ideal for where a car is going to sit for 2 hours or more. That's why we're going after home place, workplace, and fleet operations. Interestingly enough, in America, the course of the last census, over 44 million households are multi-residents. That's 31% of the U.S. population lives in multiple residents, and this is the only conclusive answer for them, or robust. There are a lot of enhanced features with our charging system. We have a node system, which is the basic charger, and it still has a lot of features. And then we have the node system. It has a lot of advanced features like security monitoring and other things that comes along with the subscription service.
All right, well, coming down to the end here, Matthew, we've already asked the Matthew question if he's hiring. So what's the final question you want to ask?
Well, I just want to know if people want more information on this. Certainly it is an interesting idea for a lot of the mixed use properties that we see around Detroit right now, where it's part residential, part office, part retail. Also just office complexes in general, I would imagine, healthcare facilities, that kind of thing, places where people are going to be working an 8-hour shift in a physical location. So if people want more information on this from you, where do they go? Who do they email? Who do they contact?
Well, they can email us at info@plugsin.us, or they can go to our website, www.plugsin.us.
Okay. And I like the pun there. Plugs in is now plugs in. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So, namaste. Right. Yeah.